We remember the movie Day After Tomorrow. I'm sure a lot of people have watched it. And if you haven't watched it, it's a pretty interesting movie. It is pretty interesting. And they spoke about the Greenland Ice Sheet. During this movie, scientists were gathering together and they were talking about global warming. And they had this one scientist who had been gathering the climate data, looking back throughout history and stuff. And his theory, he wanted them to hear his theory, but they wouldn't give him the time of day. He pressed them and pressed them and pressed them onto it. Somehow, when it got, I don't know, when things started getting kind of wild, finally they listened to him, and they wanted to know what did they need to do during this, because all this while they were talking about global warming. But that isn't what's happening. I'm sure after it froze, then, the earth started warming back up in some areas. I'm sure of it. But for those of you who had not watched it, it's pretty good. But we was talking about methane gas today, and I'm still on the methane gas. I'm not on it, you all, but I'm still focusing on it for some strange reason. Hello, you all. Thank you for tuning in. Can you hear me? We got Indiana in the house. Slapjack 777. Gina Honey says hello. That's right, from Indiana. Hello there, Nikki in Australia. Diane. Hello, Martin. Ruthie, Amy, Frank, Kim, Nina. South Africa in the house. Yes, that's right, you all. Martine and Diane. Pamela Wiggins. Hello, you all. So this movie right here. So did you know that the Greenland Ice Sheet melted at an unprecedented rate during July? Now, I don't know if it happened this July, but this is an article that I found. When you want to do some searches on the internet, sometimes a lot of the searches are omitted, and you only see what they want you to see is what happens. Yes, Gina Honey's all right today. That's right. I am. Frank Cooper Honey, hello. Yeah, so let's look at this, you all. Let me turn this over here. So let's look at this. First, somehow I got into this. Let's look at this, you all. This is going to be interesting. So, big freeze. Earth could plunge into sudden ice age. See, that's what they're saying. It could plunge into a sudden ice age. Let me put this back to me. I want to add a window capture to this, and I want to move this out of the way right here. I want to move the Greenland Ice Sheet out of the way. I want to make myself a tad bit smaller. I want to add the window capture. If you have an OBS Studio, you can add the window capture. And then voila, you can see what you're showing on here like this, you all. You can even flip the camera around like this, which is pretty great. But if I wanted to read it, I need to have my face like going this way so I can see it, perhaps. Yeah, so the big freeze. Earth could plunge into a sudden ice age. That's what it said. You can see the timestamp, December the 2nd of 2009. That's the timestamp. So, when you, DSB, honey, that's wonderful. They're interesting. I like it. I do like looking at it. Of course, I never thought about it until today, really. Until today. So, the big freeze, Earth could plunge into it. A scene from the Day After Tomorrow in which the Earth undergoes sudden and dramatic climate shifts. It was all good fiction when the film came out in 2004. Oh, I didn't know it was that long ago, you all. Wow. That was right when my husband got out of the military, 2004. But now scientists are finding eerie truths to the possibilities of sudden temperature swings. So let's look at this. So in the film, The Day After Tomorrow, the world gets gripped in ice within a span of just a few weeks. Now, research suggests an eerily similar event might indeed have occurred in the past. Of course, it probably occurred in the past. So looking ahead to the future, there is no reason, they say, why such a freeze shouldn't happen again. And in ironic fashion, you all, it could be precipitated if ongoing changes, let me move this right here out of the way, ongoing changes in the climate force the Greenland ice sheet to suddenly melt. So, well, we know that the ice sheet is melting. We know that there is a lot of methane gas coming from volcanoes, coming from lakes, tons of it, coming from sinkholes that are opening up and all of that. So here you go. This is from 2009. If ongoing changes in climate force the Greenland ice sheet to melt. Starting roughly 12,800 years ago, the northern hemisphere was gripped by a chill that lasted some 1,300 years. So they now nicknamed it the Big Freeze. If you are just tuning in, hello there from the frosty Canada. Is it cold up there? This is the perfect movie for you. The perfect video. The big, whatever it was, the day after tomorrow, the Greenland ice sheet melting. All right, you all. So let's look at this. We can do it. We're talking about the, oh my gosh, the geological evidence suggests it was brought on by a vast pulse of fresh water, a greater volume than all of North America's Great Lakes combined, and it poured into the Atlantic and the Arctic Oceans. Yes. So the abrupt influx caused when the glacier Lake Agassiz in North America burst its bank, diluted the circulation of warmer water in the North Atlantic, bringing this conveyor belt to a halt. Remember that? Day after tomorrow, the North Atlantic, whatever, conveyor belt came to a halt. Without this warming influence, the evidence shows that the temperatures across the northern hemisphere plummeted. And they did, according to the day after tomorrow. Totally plummeted big time. No time to react, you all. So look at this. So previous evidence from Greenland ice samples suggested that this abrupt shift climate happened over a span of a decade or so. Now researchers say, surprisingly, may have taken place over the course of a few months or a year. A few months or a year. Wow, that's kind of interesting. I wouldn't want that. 2 at the most. The climate system can turn on and off that quickly. That the climate system can turn that on and off that quickly is extremely important. Oh my gosh. Said the Earth System scientist Henry Mullins at Syracuse University, who did not take part in the research. Once the tipping point is reached, there would be essentially no opportunity for humans to react. This is what they're talking about. No opportunities for humans to react when that tipping point is hit. That is not good, though. Where are we at, you all? For 2 years, isotope biochemist William Patterson at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada and his colleagues investigated a mud core, a tube of mud. That's like in the movie, you all. The day after tomorrow. Remember, they got this big old tube of mud taken from the ancient lake Low Monreach in Ireland. Wow. Because this sediment was deposited slowly over time, each layer from this core effectively represents a snapshot of history, with slices just a 0.5 millimeter thick, presenting 1 to 3 months. You all, isn't this strange? The Day After Tomorrow movie, and these scientists took that? Yeah. Basically, I drive around in Western Ireland looking for the right conditions, bedrock, vegetation, and lake, to obtain the most complete record of climate, Patterson exclaimed. Vancouver has a blizzard today. Oh my gosh, Jeffrey, honey. Yes, you got to stay safe. By looking at isotopes of the carbon in each slice, the researchers could deduce how productive the lake was. And when plants grow in lakes, they prefer carbon 12 to make up their organic tissue. That is, carbon atoms that have 12 protons and neutrons in total in their nucleus. This leaves the lake water with relatively more carbon 13, and at the same time, oxygen isotopes give a picture of temperature. When animals or plants produce calcium by calcium carbonate, the rate of oxygen 16 and oxygen 18 isotopes within they're related to temperature. A deep freeze coming? I hope not, I really hope not. So at the start of the Younger Dryas, Patterson and his colleagues discovered that temperatures and lake productivity dropped over the course of just a few years. It would be like taking Ireland today and moving it up to above the Arctic Circle, creating icy conditions in a very short period of time. So if you're in Ireland, if you live in Ireland, is your weather really strange? Especially if you've been around for a while, at least, I don't know, longer than like a teenager or something. If you've been around for years and years and years, are you noticing a shift, a change in your weather all of a sudden? Hello there, Betty Zoom. So these findings suggest that it may have taken 100 to 200 years before the lake and climate recovered, rather than the decade or so that the Greenland ice cores had indicated. Let's look at this. So this makes sense because it would take time for the ocean and the atmospheric circulation to turn on again. The discrepancies between the evidence from the mud core and the ice cores might be due to disturbances in how material flowed within the ice. Sometimes there's melting and you have percolation of material between layers, which can blur the records. We found that a core had not been disturbed even on a millimeter by millimeter basis. So the sediment had been layered in order since it was deposited. That's kind of wild. A chilly future. So how we doing over here? So we are looking at the could this happen again? Could it happen again? Like happened in the day after tomorrow. How this event right here could happen in a matter of weeks, months, or maybe at the most 2 years for something like this to happen. They were calling for global warming in the movie, but then something happened and the Greenland ice sheet started melting, and then the conveyor belt broke is what happened. And then here came the freeze. They saw it coming, and they didn't know how much time they had left, and they couldn't save everybody. It was really kind of Yeah, but it's a pretty good movie if you like movies like that. Yeah, we can do it. We're going to read it, you all. So let's look at this. So they see no reason why a big freeze shouldn't, okay, they're telling you shouldn't happen again. If the Greenland ice sheet melted suddenly, it would be catastrophic. The kind of scenario would not discount evidence pointing toward global warming. Okay, so you just have it there. It will not discount global warming. If the Greenland ice sheet melted, it does not discount global warming. All right, it doesn't. After all, it leans on the Greenland ice sheet melting. We could say that global warming could lead to a dramatic cooling, Patterson told Live Science. This should serve as further warning rather than a patch. We got all this methane gas. It's literally, it's going up into the atmosphere, and I think it's going up to the stratosphere or stuff like that. It's not good. It's like trapped. So when they say, we're having global warming, well, we need to look out for this thing right here. A sudden freeze. Because it could happen. It really could happen. Let's look at this. Low this week. You all are getting a low this week. So let me look at this. People assume that we're political, that we're either pro-global warming or anti-global warming, when it's really neither. Our goal is just to understand the climate. Patterson and his colleagues detailed their findings at the European Science Foundation Boreas Conference on Humans in the Arctic, and in Rovaniemi, Finland, Rovaniemi, Finland. So look at this. So I wanted to look up the Greenland ice sheets. The Greenland ice sheet. So we're going to look at that just for a moment, you all. This is like, look at all these things right here. The methane beneath the Greenland ice sheet is being released. It's being released. And I'm going to put myself back over here. We're going to look into this more because this is kind of wild. And they want to stop the global warming. They really do, because too much methane is coming into the air. Hello there. They can't find it. They can't find it. So methane beneath Greenland's ice sheet is being released. This is Nature. Methane produced in sediments beneath the Greenland ice sheet is released to the atmosphere by meltwater in the summer. This suggests that the glacial melt could be an important global source. So look at some of these images right here. If we were to tip into them, I think I did tip into them. Right here, here's the ice sheet. You could see it. You can also see like up here, the ice sheet. And they do have data that will tell you how much is melting and how much isn't. I do know that with what we did this morning with the, what did we do this on this morning? What was that, you all? It was the bubbles coming up out of the lake in Alaska. Those people who were hunters, they no longer can hunt in Alaska because there's no longer 3 to 4 feet of ice to hunt their seals, whatever they hunt. So they got to relocate because, you know, they're losing their land to the sea. The sea is, or the Arctic is rising, and they're going to have to pick berries. They're going to have to be gatherers. That was the one thing that we did in that video. They had to become gatherers. Well, they ain't got there yet, but that's what they're thinking of doing. They definitely don't eat yellow snow. So let's push this back over here. So look at this. This is an article. This article is more than 10 years old. The Greenland ice sheet melted at an unprecedented rate during July. So 10 years old. So we'll take it back to 2012, perhaps. Is that the date of the article? This is this. Look at that. In over 4 days. How on earth could that be possible? Really, how could it be? On July the 8th, and 4 days later on the right, the image in the area is classified as probable melt, which is the light pink, correspond to those sites where at least one satellite detected surface melting. The area is classified as melt, which is dark pink, correspond to sites where 2 or 3 satellites detected surface melting. It melted at a faster rate this month than at any other time in recorded history. The ice sheet melted as fast, with virtually the entire ice sheet showing signs of thaw. The rapid melting over just 4 days was captured by 3 satellites. It has stunned and alarmed. I've got myself too big on here. It has stunned and alarmed. I'm just going to do it like this. Let me make this really smaller. I got myself distracted, you all. So, it has stunned and alarmed scientists and deepened fears about the pace and future consequences of climate change. In a statement posted on NASA's website, you all, this is around 10 years ago, the scientists admitted the satellite data was so striking. They thought at first that there had been a mistake. This was so extraordinary that at first I questioned the result. Was this real, or was it due to a data error at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena? Hello there, Ann Gaynor. So he consulted with several colleagues who confirmed his findings, and Dorothy Hall, who studies the surface temperature of Greenland at NASA's Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, confirmed that the area experienced unusually high temperatures in mid-July and that there was widespread melting over the surface of the ice sheet. Climatologist Thomas Mote at the University of Georgia and Marco, City University of New York, confirmed the melt recorded by the satellites. If you're just tuning in, We are looking at this right here. These are articles. However, scientists were still coming to grips with the shocking images on Tuesday. I think it's fair to say that this is unprecedented. Jay Zwally, a glaciologist at NASA's Goddard Space Center. The set of images released by NASA on Tuesday showed a rapid thaw between 8 July and 12 July. How on earth is that possible unless something did it? 4 days. Within that 4-day period, measurements from 3 satellites showed a swift expansion of the area of melting ice from about 40% of the ice sheet in one area surface to 97%. Like that. Scientists attributed the sudden melt to a heat dome, or a burst of unusually warm air, which hovered over Greenland from July the 8th until the 16th of July. Isn't that wild? That is really wild. Greenland had returned to a more typical summer conditions by the 21st or the 22nd of July. But he said the event, while exceptional, should be viewed alongside other compelling evidence of climate change, including on the ground in Greenland. What we are seeing at the highest elevations may be a sort of sign of what is going on across the ice sheet. At lower elevations on the ice sheet, we are seeing earlier melting later in the season, and more frequent melting over the last 30 years, and that is consistent of what you would expect with a warming climate. Remember, Admiral Byrd said the Earth is warming. Remember him in that video we did? That's what he said. The Earth is warming. This was back in around, 1940 something? Zawale has made almost yearly trips to Greenland, to the Greenland Ice Sheet for more than 3 decades, and he said he never seen such a rapid melt. About half of Greenland's surface ice sheet melts during a typical summer, but he said he and his other scientists had been recording an acceleration of the melting process over the last few decades. This year, his team had to rebuild their camp at Swiss Station when the snow and ice supports melted. Betty Zoom, in 2021 in Canada, a town burnt down. Wow, Betty Zoom. Yeah. He said he had never seen such a rapid ice melt over his 3 decades of nearly trips to the Greenland Ice Sheet. He was not surprised to see indications in the images of melting even around the area of the summit station, which is about 2 miles above sea level. It was the second unusual event in Greenland in a matter of days. After an iceberg the size of Manhattan broke off from the Petermann Glacier, but the rapid melt was viewed as more serious. You all know, that's what they said in the movie. Remember that? An iceberg the size of Manhattan broke off from the Petermann Glacier, but the rapid melt was viewed as more serious. If you look at the 8 July image, that might be the maximum extent of warming you would see in the summer. There have been periods when melting might have occurred at higher elevations briefly, maybe for a day or so, but to have it cover the whole of Greenland like this is unknown, certainly in the time of satellite records. Well, let me just say something. The Martians in the War of the Worlds, they have a heat gun, you all. They have a heat ray technology. That's what they said in the War of the Worlds. Heat ray technology. Yeah. Jason Box, a glaciologist at the Ohio State University, returned Tuesday from a research trip in Greenland. He had been predicting a big melt for the year 2012 because of earlier melt and a decline in summer snow flurries. He said the heat dome, so we got a heat dome over us, was not necessarily a one-off. This is now the 7th summer in a row with this pattern of warm air being lifted up onto the ice sheet on the summer months. What is surprising is just how persistent this circulation anomaly is. It's persistent. Here it is back again for the 7th year in a row in the summer, bringing hot, warm air onto the ice sheet. He also said the surfaces at higher elevation, now refrozen, could be more prone to future melting because of the changes in the structure of the snow crystals. Box expected the melting to continue at lower elevations. About half of Greenland's surface ice sheet melts during a typical summer, but Zwali said he and other scientists had been recording an acceleration of that melting process over the last few decades. And this year, his team had to rebuild their camp at Swiss Station. We already read that when the ice supports melted. So Laura Koning, another Goddard glaciologist, told NASA similar rapid melting occurs about every 150 years. But she warned there were wide-ranging potential implications from this year's thaw. If we continue to observe melting events like this in upcoming years, it will be worrisome. The most immediate consequences are sea level rise and a further warming of the Arctic. In the center of Greenland, the ice remains up to 3,000 meters deep. On the edges, however, the ice is much, much thinner and has been melting into the sea. The melting ice sheet is a significant factor in sea level rise. Scientists attribute 1/5 of the annual sea level rise, which is about 3 millimeters every year, to the melting of the Greenland ice sheet. In this instance of this month's extreme melting, Molt said there was evidence of a heat dome over Greenland, or an unusually strong ridge of warm air. The dome is believed to have moved over Greenland on July the 8th, lingering until the 16th of July. So let's look at this, you all. So 10 years old, more than 10 years old. I don't know when this article. Okay, 2012. This is when it was written. 2012. He was talking about a dome. So let's say if we come over here. See this dome over Google Earth right here? I went to Ireland. I went to Iceland. Let's see if it's showing it on here for you. Has it done a window capture yet? Okay, just the screen right here. What is this, you all, up here? Why is this circle here? Really, what is that? Is that the center? This is what that area looks like. And then here we have Iceland, or Greenland right here. So I've got this set on 2015. Now, if we do this, you can see there's like a lot of snow here right now. Okay, this is what it would look like right now. But if you can take this little clock thing, you can take it back a little at a time, if we can. See if we can see any differences in this ice sheet. So they did it in 2012. Let's see what happened in 2012. I can't really see too much of anything. Let's look. I want to go all the way back to when the records were taken. So this is like 1934. We're trying to see if there's anything moving right there. I don't know if there is. This isn't updating. Okay, there's some right there. 91. But can't find it. We can see something melting. What would that dome be, you all? Hello. Iceland is green and Greenland is ice. Greenland Ice Sheet. That's what we got. Greenland Ice Sheet. So this is Greenland. Okay, let's look at this. So look at this. The Earth. If you go to NOAA's weather thing, NOAA, or the GOES satellite, it's like everywhere you look, there is weather with clouds. Everywhere you look, there's some kind of an event occurring. There really is. Look way up here. So that's kind of whatever it is. But we're looking at the Iceland sheet. 15 million years ago is what we're looking at. So let's come back to there, you all. Just you. So let's look at this. So this is right here. Technical report server. Greenland's subglacial methane released. This is December of 2018. So methane is a potent greenhouse gas, but a complete accounting of global methane sources and sinks is still ongoing. Sediments beneath glaciers and ice sheets harbor carbon reserves that, under certain conditions, can be converted to methane. However, the formation and release of such methane is an unquantified component of the Arctic methane budget. The present direct measurements of the dissolved methane in proglacial discharge from a land-terminating glacier of the Greenland Ice Sheet. This proglacial discharge was supersaturated with methane and had diffusive methane fluxes similar to other terrestrial rivers for the duration of the summer measurement period. Their results suggested that the variability in the proglacial discharge is associated with methane release control in the Arctic methane cycle. The study by Lamarche Gagnon is an important example of how the cryosphere, you all, cryogenics, can interact with the surrounding Earth system in an unexpected and potentially significant ways. Characterizing the ability of subglacial sediments to convert and store methane and the ability of the subglacial hydrologic system to export this methane to the atmosphere through both modeling and observational studies are critical steps in improving our knowledge of the sources and sinks of the Arctic methane and better constraining their future changes. I don't think they can contain it. I really don't. So look at that. They harbor reserves. Concentrations varied in the past, and it has been hypothesized that large reserves can form and be trapped under the ice sheets. Rapid release of this methane during a glacial retreat might trigger rapid warming. You see that, you all? Let you get me out of the way. So let's look at this. So atmospheric methane concentrations varied substantially in the past, and it has been hypothesized that reserves of methane can form and be trapped under the ice sheets and glaciers when there is a favorable combination of carbon-rich sediments, high subglacial pressures, and oxygen-poor conditions and low temperatures. This is what's really wild right here. The rapid release of this methane during glacial retreat might trigger rapid warming, but whether a large-scale release of such glacial methane could occur in the future is disputed. Field observations provide equivocal evidence for whether subglacial sediments act as a source of sink of methane. Ice core drilling operations in West Antarctica detected methane-producing microbes in proglacial and subglacial sediments, but analysis of Antarctic subglacial lake sediments and proglacial sediments indicate the bacterial oxidation consumes almost all of the methane produced. So its cycling suggests that the subglacial hydrological system could serve as a methane sink. Near the margins of the Iceland sheet, a glacial hydrological system seems to be well suited to export the methane. So they're really studying the Greenland Ice Sheet is what they're doing. Greenland might be limited by the area of liquid water that can form at the ice sheet bed. The extent of the carbon-rich sediments beneath it is unknown, particularly in Greenland, where both sediments and hard beds have been observed. So winter storage allows meltwater become enriched with methane through the water's interaction with sediments. So this is NASA's thing, you all. Let me put this back over here. Then we've got these scientists right here. They're exposing fresh layers of sampling of sediment right here. So let's get over here, you all. Otis DNA, life in Greenland. This is December the 11th. So we got some current news. We really do. 2 million years ago, look, it's uncovering the stuff. A 2 million year old trunk, if it truly was 2 million years ago, from a large tree is stuck in the permafrost within the coastal deposits. It's the oldest DNA and used it to reveal what life was like 2 million years ago in the northern tip of Greenland. Today, it's a barren Arctic desert, but back then it was a lush landscape of tree and vegetations with an array of animals, even the now extinct mastodon. So what do you think happened? We had all of these animals. Do you think there was a deep freeze back then? What was that cartoon movie where it had that woolly mammoth in it? Do you all remember that? Oh, they do tap the gas. They do. But the problem is now we got sinkholes opening up, massive holes appearing all over the world, and holes appearing at the bottom of lakes, especially in the Arctic. We did the video today. It's releasing 10 tons of methane. Yes, Ice Age. 10 tons of methane gas into the atmosphere every single day, heating up the atmosphere and creating carbon dioxide flash frozen. Yeah, the region's warm period. And that's what the scientists said could happen with this big freeze right here. If the Greenland ice sheet melted suddenly, it would be catastrophic. This kind of scenario would not discount evidence pointing toward global warming. After all, it leans on the Greenland ice sheet melting. We could say that global warming could lead to a dramatic cooling, and this should serve as further warning rather than a pass. People assume that we're political, that we're either pro-global or anti-global, but our goal is just to understand the climate. That's what they want to understand, the climate, you all. So look at that. It would be like taking Ireland today and moving it up above the Arctic Circle, creating icy conditions in a very short period of time. They said that if this could happen, what did they say, you all? Previous evidence from Greenland ice samples suggested that this abrupt shift in the climate happened over the span of a decade or so. Now the researchers say it surprisingly may have taken place over a course of a few months or a year or two at the most. That the climate system can turn on and off that quickly is extremely important. Once the tipping point is reached, there would be essentially no opportunity for humans to react. If you watch that Day After Tomorrow movie, then you know that they everything was normal. They had big ice, big things of hail falling in parts across the world, hitting people on the head, smashing the hoods of cars and stuff. Then they had like flash flooding. Then they had a big tidal wave that came to New York, and then shortly afterward, the big freeze came and everything was frozen, and they got holed up into a library in New York, and they had to gather the books from this library and throw it in this old fireplace to keep warm, and they were freezing before their science dad found them. Yeah, so it was pretty wild. Denmark Honey, Gina Honey loves to read things, and I don't believe everything every person says either just because it's their opinion, because I have my own opinion too. I happen to think there's a lot of things that are possible. I really do. I don't have a box that my mind is in. I'm going to go outside the box. I'm going to take a box cutter knife, and I'm going to cut through all the areas of the box and make all the sides of the box go down. That way they can't put the box back together to put me in the box. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I like to think outside the box on lots and lots of different subjects. I think it's quite healthy. I do explore things from all points of view. Now just because I'm exploring this from this point of view, does that mean my mind is totally set on this? No, because there's a lot of other theories that people say is going to happen. And this is one of them right here. And we could talk about the aliens too. We could say that the aliens are trying to terraform this earth to create the exact conditions they need, like the Martians in the War of the Worlds, to terraform the earth so that they can, come out here and breathe our atmosphere. That's right, Lakeside Laura, we do. We rock. We do. That's exactly right, you are. So methane beneath the Greenland ice sheet So it was really interesting that, let's say, an ice the size of Manhattan, a sheet of ice. Sheet of ice the size of Manhattan, and that's what they spoke of, these scientists. Yeah. Let's see what that says. Are we over here? A chunk of ice. Look, they said it on CNN. A chunk of ice twice the size of Manhattan has broken off. This was in the year 2020. So let's see what they had to say. If it's a video, I'm not going to click into it. So we're going to look at it. A 44, what's a lovely number, square mile chunk of ice about twice the size of Manhattan has broken off the Arctic's largest remaining ice shelf in northeast Greenland in the last 2 years, leaving scientists fearful over its rapid disintegration. The territory's ice sheet is the second biggest in the world behind Antarctica's, and its annual melt contributes more than a millimeter rise to the sea levels every year. Yes, all right, honey, we're doing great. We should be very concerned about what appears to be progressive disintegration at the Arctic's largest remaining ice shelf because upstream is the only major Greenland ice sheet stream. That's interesting. So listen to that, you all. So the Arctic's largest remaining ice shelf upstream is the only major ice sheet ice stream. Wow. These last 2 summers have been exceptionally warm, and the recent ice that has broken off is just under twice the size of Manhattan. And the disintegration has really picked up these last couple of years. Researchers have been tracking the loss of ice in that area using their optical satellite imagery. Greenland is the world's largest island. It is located between the Arctic and the Atlantic Oceans, and around 79% of its surface is covered in ice. Progressive disintegration at Spalt Glacier, northeast Greenland, on the 27th of August of 2020. The Arctic remains the largest floating ice sheet. Oh, okay, you also. This is a floating ice sheet. It's not an island, but it is an ice sheet that is floating on the water. That's right. Mike Grundvig. Yes, that's what they said. Heat up, global warming, and then a massive ice thing. Yeah. Then that would fit right into Admiral Byrd's. Let's look at Admiral Byrd's. Admiral Byrd. The Earth is getting warmer. Look. So he made a trip, Admiral Byrd and the Hollow Earth. He made a trip to the North Pole in 1926 and over the South Pole in 1929. And the contention continues that Admiral Byrd did make a trip inside the North Pole entrance to Hollow Earth in 1926. And in January of 56, he led an expedition to the South Pole. What's this say? Operation High Jump. Yeah. He says in 1947, I'd like to see the land beyond the pole. The area beyond the pole is the center of the great unknown, is what he said. The center of the great unknown. But he did say in the video that I did of Admiral Byrd, he said the Earth was warming, which, yeah, warming, but just because it's warming doesn't mean that it won't cause ice age. Where am I at over here, you all? Where was we at? Was we right here? That's where we were, right here. So let's look at this. At the sea ice minimum in the Arctic is said to be one of the lowest ever recorded. Oh, look at this. A satellite image from July the 31st of 2019 shows pools and rivers of water on the surface of Greenland's Nagaholveskjorden Glacier. Wow, this is 2019. It has been incredibly warm. The atmosphere in the region has warmed by approximately 3 degrees Celsius. 3 degrees Celsius, you all, since 1980. and record-breaking temperatures have been observed in 2019 and 2020. So what did we hear about the 3 degrees? Did we mention 3 degrees earlier today? I think something about 3 degrees. Yeah. So as the sea ice minimum in the Arctic is set to be one of the lowest ever on record, another massive chunk of vital sea ice has fallen into the ocean. This is yet another alarm bell rung by the climate crisis in a rapidly heating Arctic. When you observe large parts of ice shelf breaking off, you do raise an eyebrow, but with current developments in the Arctic, there is no realization that this is to be expected. The new research from GEUS follows a study released last month by Ohio State University, which found that the Greenland ice sheet had melted to a point of no return. So they're at a point of no return. So that's the tipping point. Is that not we just read, you all? That was the tipping point? Where was the tipping point? This was the day after tomorrow. And they said once you reach that tipping point, okay. So let's see this. Researchers say the Greenland ice sample suggested an abrupt shift in climate. That the climate system can turn on and off that quickly is extremely important. Once the tipping point is reached, there would be essentially no opportunities for humans to react. And so this researcher said Greenland ice sheet has melted to a point of no return. I wonder where that scientist was from in the movie, you all. Really, where was the scientist from? Greenland's ice sheet has melted to a point of no return. This is CNN. Let's see if we can hear it.
Captured in a stunning image of Greenland's melting ice sheet. The photo was taken.
Let me see if I can pause this video because I want to get the audio on here for you all. I got to do the audio output. So let's make this bigger so you can hear it. Let's go back to right here. Let's play it.
The devastating impact of a warming planet has been captured in a stunning image of Greenland's melting ice sheet. The photo was taken a few days ago by scientist Stefan Olsen. His sled dogs would normally be running on ice, but instead they're knee-deep in a wide expanse of light blue water. Greenland's melt season runs from June to August, but on this one day, June 13th, 40% of the island's ice sheet experienced melting. Here's Olsen talking to CNN about the image.
I was perhaps like many others now a bit overwhelmed by the impressive melting we saw during the day, and the situation were somehow getting a little bit out of hand, or we were getting out of our comfort zone working on the ice. So yeah, I wanted to document the situation and likely also had an idea that it would be some kind of a scientific evidence of the situation.
Okay, you all. That was it. That was the Greenland ice sheet
of a
thing.
warming planet has been captured.
Let me get that audio off of there. So he's supposed to be having his sleigh dogs on the snow or ice, but they weren't. They were in the water. Yeah. In the total water. So that is kind of wild. Let's see the rest of that. The ice is now in this dynamic state where even if we went back to a climate that was more like what we had 20 or 30 years ago, we would still be pretty quickly losing mass. Greenland's ice sheet dumps more than 280 billion metric tons of melting ice into the ocean each year, making it the greatest single contributor to a global sea level rise. And the ice loss has been so massive in recent years that it has caused a measurable change in the gravitational field over Greenland. Wow, you are the gravitational field over Greenland. That is kind of wild. That is an aerial view of melting ice forming on a lake on a free-floating ice jammed into the Ilissuit ice fjord during unseasonably warm weather. I'm trying to zip up my jacket. Unseasonably warm weather. We'll just leave it like that. Unseasonably warm weather. Ice melting in Greenland contributes to more than a millimeter of sea rise. Sea levels are projected to rise by more than 3 feet by the end of the century, wiping away beaches and properties. Coastal states like Florida and low-lying island nations are particularly vulnerable. Just a sea level rise of 3 feet could put large areas of coastline underwater. 40% of the U.S. population resides in coastal areas that are vulnerable to sea level rise. Florida. And that's exasperated when you get storms and hurricanes and things like that. They cause extra surge on top of that, you all. So even though the retreat of the Greenland ice sheet likely cannot be reversed, it's just the first in a series of tipping points. If the climate change continues at this rate, the rate of melting will get much worse. We have passed the point of no return, but there's obviously more to come. Rather than being a single tipping point in which we've gone from a happy ice sheet to a rapidly collapsing ice sheet, it's more of a staircase where we have fallen off the first step, but there's many more steps to go down into the pit. So the methane is trapped under the Greenland ice sheet. And as it melts, the methane goes up into the air. It goes up into the atmosphere. We talked about that this morning, you all. And there comes carbon dioxide also, and it gets trapped as like a heat dome. So what about that? What about that month? Okay, let's think about what about the month? It was July something, July the 8th. And it was just in a matter of 4 days it melted. Are we at this thing right here, you all? Just a matter of 4 days was this one? This one wasn't it, was it? Where was the one that it was only a matter of 4 days where that happened at? It was right here on July the 8th. Let's find a news article on that. July the 8th. Was it 2009 is when it happened? It melted July the 8th until the 16th of July. There was a heat dome. They could see a heat dome or a burst of unusually warm weather air that hovered over Greenland from the 8th of July until the 16th of July. An unusually warm air, a heat dome. So what's that, 2009? July... Heat dome over Greenland. Let's find that. Heat dome over Greenland. Heat dome over Greenland. Let's see this. Colin Goddard, honey. Gina, honey, years and years ago, before I even started this journey, even while my husband was still in the military, Gina, honey, read up on all of that. Yes, I did. I was religiously following the HARP and all of that kind of stuff, and earthquakes and the weather and stuff. I did. I promise you I did. Yes, I did. Big time. I know stuff, even though I don't say it. I know a lot about a lot of things. I really do. And that's okay. Through July the 16th. 16th, heat dome. Heat. Right. Whoa. So now let's see this, NASA.gov. This latest heat dome started to move over Greenland on July the 8th and parked itself over the ice sheet about 3 days later. July the 16th, it began to dissipate. Even the area around the, even the area around the, Summit Station in Greenland, which at 2 miles above sea level is near the highest point of the ice sheet. Ooh. See, and you can go look at that. I wonder if you could go look back at that time. Well, I don't think we could probably look at that time because we probably don't have this particular data right here on the NASA thing, but you could probably go back and look at that heat dome over that area. Satellites, look at this. See, unprecedented Greenland ice sheet surface melt. Oh, we already seen that. Yeah, that's kind of old. A heat dome. Okay, everybody's got the heat dome. Great big dome. The biggest melt in 30 years, so this was accelerated, you all. UGA climatologist, extreme Greenland ice sheet surface. Boom. Its ice melts every 150 years. Is right on time. Oh, you all, it's right on time. How can it be right on time unless this is caused by something else? Ever 150 years right on time. That's what I would be wondering. You get to see them sending the clouds in Colorado, and I see the event play out in the week ahead. That's right. I guess you can look at these. Aren't these weather systems really wild? Look at that. This is 2017. What are these people doing on here, you all? That's right. Yeah, none of this is normal. Let's see the Martians and their heat ray gun. The Martians and their heat ray gun. The Martians and heat ray weapon. Well, we know that the upper atmosphere can be heated up with a certain angels don't play this harp. That's right, but this one was directed. So yeah. Even though they signed it. Okay, you all, let's look at this. Heat ray, the war of the worlds. You all, this okay. I like to go to Wiki Fandom every once in a while, but this ain't the Wiki Fandom. This is the War of the World Wiki. Oh, so heat ray is described as a camera type box with a circular mirror attached to one point of the tripod tentacles. Oh, this is their machine that can fly, and it can just like, I guess maybe let's just say the Martians did it. They have a skeleton beam. They can create X-ray effect hitting a human on their target. Ooh, you also, yeah. This heat ray, a generator of intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute non-conductivity. This intense heat, they project in a parallel beam against the object they choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition. Much of this parabolic mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light project. Yeah. That's all we're going to read on that, you. I'm going to come back over to here. I'm going to get right here. We already reading about this. The Greenland ice sheet melt. And it could happen. And if you're in these areas, really, if you're in these areas around there, around Greenland, are you noticing unusually cold weather that normally should not be there all of a sudden? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, country boy, we had that time traveler saying all these aliens were going to come, and every time we give the dates that he said, that it didn't happen. It didn't. They said it's going to happen in May. Then they said it was going to happen in August or September, and then they're going to say it's going to happen in December the 8th, and it didn't happen. These time travelers, they got lots of followers. They really do. People like a story. They love it. Yeah, that's right. Well, this one right here, the Greenland Ice Sheet, it's no secret. If you all haven't seen the video from earlier today about the methane gas that's coming up out of the sinkholes and out of these lakes, these rivers, the Arctic and stuff, it's releasing tons and tons of methane into the atmosphere, and it's heating up also. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to look at when I was thinking about the methane gas that's being trapped in the upper atmosphere, and the plasma, the methane that's being released from the earth. Methane from earth to atmosphere. Sphere. I can't really think and type that. And plasma. Oh, okay. Atmospheric methane. We know it traps the heat of the atmosphere. Methane traps a significant amount of heat. helping the planet remain warm and habitable. It's they try to balance it, you all, but they can't. You can't really balance it if you've got a big old dome over Greenland. Methane super emitters right there. A global view of it. Super emitters. They say volcanoes are... Look at this, you all. Cattles are enormous contributor. No. More than 70%. You all, come on now. No. If you go to the video we did earlier today, you all, this one lake in the Arctic is releasing 10 tons a day of methane into the atmosphere. 10 tons. And it was much more than the 1 ton in a 20-year combined period that they were estimating would heat up the atmosphere by 87%. So you just compile 10 tons of methane every single day coming from this one lake in Alaska or the Arctic from 2014. We got a big massive dome over us, okay, and it didn't have nothing to do with the animals. It didn't. It really didn't. Yeah. See, no, don't buy it, you all. Do not buy it. Maybe they don't want to scare people. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't want to say, well, you know what, our Earth is heating up because this methane is coming out. And if you go watch that video, it does the magnetosphere. Earth's magnetosphere is affected by this methane coming out, and CERN does not have the biggest magnetosphere. China does. China has like a 44 whatever Tesla magnetic field, and CERN only has like a 8 point something Tesla, and the Earth's not even a 1 Tesla. It's not. And this methane and these magnetic fields, powerful magnetic fields, in the earlier video today, the last live video that I did, they did a study on the polarity shift in Earth's magnetic field with methane. That is like a more or less one of the signs that it's getting ready to do its thing too, right? Like that. So if the Earth were to flip poles, would we have like ice? A mini ice age or something, a flash freeze or something like that, you all, if the Earth were to flip its poles with the methane. So you're just going to touch back on here again. Methane and the magnetosphere and magnetosphere and polarity flip. That's right. Look. Earth's magnetic field is CH4, methane, polar, non-polar, all of this stuff. They did a thing, magnetics 42,000 years ago, creating a climate, blah, blah, blah. Y variations in Earth's magnetic field. Pole reversal happens all the time. The sun's magnetic field. The earlier one today is pretty cool, you all. It really is. The Earth's magnetic field could start to flip. There you go. Boom. So yeah, the Earth's magnetic field is collapsing and the poles are about to do that thing. So yeah, that's what we got. So I'm going to be going. I am, you all. The Greenland Ice Sheet. I don't think it's like, I don't think it's all fiction. I really don't. There's clues in the movies. There really is. And, you wouldn't have time to warn the people anyway if something like that happened. Or even if a great big massive meteor was coming, you would not have time to warn the people. You wouldn't want to warn them months ahead of time because you would have uncontrollable chaos. And people's lives would be absolutely chaotic. They really would. They wouldn't be able to enjoy the rest of their life because they'd be knowing, okay, it's the end of the world in 2 months. Really. That's why they're only going to tell you a little bit of time before it happens, really, because you can't do nothing about it anyhow. So, Rob, honey, thank you. Well, Gina, honey's going to go. I am. So, so why did they do a study on that? Really, why? And why did they do a study on the methane gas coming out of the Earth? and the Earth's magnetosphere, because they did, and how it affects the poles. That's right. That's right. We would just quit paying our taxes, you all. I am going to go. So thank you all. And with that being said, hello, wherever you are in any part of the world. Hello. From my heart to yours, love you. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, you all. If you haven't watched that movie, The Day After Tomorrow, it's pretty cool. It is. If you like to watch TV. But if you don't watch it because it's going to take up too much of your time. That's right. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, you all. Did I say this yet? I'm going to say it. So with that being said, hello. Wherever you are in any part of the world, hello. From my heart to yours, love you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, you all. Thank you.